Welcome to Meet Carnivore, a channel run by a guy who, let's be honest, was never particularly known for his complex cooking skills. I wasn't that person in the group who brings something impressive to the dinner party, unless you count beef with cheese as culinary achievement, which now I actually do. Before Carnivore, my idea of getting creative in the kitchen was trying to cook eggs without breaking the yolks. And now I'm here making taco shells out of cheese and calling it dinner. So yeah, I clearly thought the carnivore lifestyle would turn me into Gordon Ramsay or something. But hey, welcome to reality. We are making it work. So today's video is about tacos. Carnivore tacos. With cheese shells, beef, bacon, and a little dollop of dairy on top for good measure. They are greasy, slightly crispy, and if you squint hard enough and tilt your head, you can almost pretend you're eating real tacos. And honestly, that's good enough for me. Let's talk ingredients first. I'm starting with 300 grams of minced beef, because that's what comes in the standard packaging size in the Netherlands. I wasn't even sure if I use it all, but I did. Then I've got around 180 grams of shredded cheddar cheese. That's going to be used entirely for the taco shells. I also have some cream. Don't ask me to spell that out loud. And a couple slices of bacon that I'll eventually cut, overcook slightly, and pretend that that's exactly what I wanted to do. Let's start with the bacon. Now, normally you'd measure things, prep neatly, get the place going, but not today. I just took a few slices of bacon, started slicing them into little pieces, and adjusted the strategy while slicing. You know how chefs say, let the food tell you what it wants. Well, apparently my bacon wanted to be chopped unevenly by a guy with poor knife skills. So that's exactly what it got. And here's the part where I usually get distracted and start cooking things out of order. But today I made a bold decision. We are going to start with the cheese taco shells. Right away. No delays, no excuses. I want structure and I want melted cheese pretending to be tortillas. Anyway, bacon is prepped and set aside. So I grabbed a non-stick pan, turned the heat to medium, and scooped in about 3 tablespoons of shredded cheddar to form a rough circle. Not a perfect circle, just enough to look like a taco shell and not a fried accident. That's the standard. Perfection is for pastry chefs, I'm here for cheese. Now we wait. Cheese doesn't bubble out of joy. It bubbles because it's transforming. First it melts, then it starts to sizzle, and eventually the edges develop that golden brown halo you're looking for. That's your sign. If it starts smelling like burnt grilled cheese from childhood, yeah, you waited a little too long. Time to flip. So flipping cheese is an art. Not a fine art, not a respectable art, but definitely an art form in this kitchen. I slid a spatula underneath the first one and somehow, magically, it flipped without tearing or turning into a cheese comet. It looked promising. Now comes the challenge. Figuring out how to make these things fold into taco shells before they cool and turn into unmovable discs of regret. Cheese, just like revenge, is best served cold, but not when you're trying to bend it. So I channeled my inner IKEA engineer. I grabbed 2 glasses, propped 2 wooden skewers across them, and hung the shell over it, like I was trying to air dry a medieval flag. That worked surprisingly well, and it gave me just enough confidence to try another one. Round 2. More cheese into the pan. This time I was feeling confident. Flattened it just right, let it bubble, flipped it, smooth as butter. No panic, no burns, no surprises. It turned out nearly identical to the first one, which was still cooling on the wooden skewer setup. I gently placed that one in a bowl nearby, just to admire my own work like I'd actually achieved something impressive. It looked so good I almost didn't want to touch it. Back to business. Round 3. I thought maybe I can get away with using just 2 tablespoons of cheese. Make it a bit thinner. Turns out, no. The flip went sideways, the shape was all wrong, and halfway through I gave up and just split it in half with my spatula, like I was performing emergency surgery. That one became 2 weird cheese chips, which I ate out of spite. At this point, I decided to be strategic. I'd eat the failures and save the pretty ones for the thumbnail. That's called content planning, or survival, depending how you look at it. Meanwhile, the bottom of the pan had developed the shimmering pool of melted cheddar oil. It looked like something I should deal with responsibly, so I poured it into a bowl and told myself I'd figure it out later. Then came one that was absolutely perfect. I mean, the cheese melted evenly and it had golden edges. I actually paused and admired it in the pan for a second like some proud cheese artist. But then, during the flip, disaster struck. Instead of landing flat, it folded over on itself like a bad yoga pose. pure panic. I tried to fix it fast, and for some reason my brain decided the best tool for that job was my bare fingers. And yes, I burned my fingers. Somehow I salvaged it, laid it out, and acted like nothing happened. But yeah, the shell has trauma. By the time I finished, I had 5 total. 3 good ones for the camera, 2 test shells for emotional support and snacking, and a growing respect for anyone who works with melted cheese and still has fingerprints. Now that the cheese engineering phase was complete, it was time for the filling. I took that weird little bowl of cheddar oil, which was now turning into some kind of a cheese candle, and poured it right back into the pan. If that doesn't scream flavor, I don't know what does. Bacon goes in first. I started cooking it while staring proudly at my cooling shells, completely ignoring the fact that bacon doesn't wait for your ego. So yeah, it got a little darker than I planned. Not totally burned, but we're past the crispy phase and well into the don't tell anyone zone. I tried to convince myself that it was intentional. Like, I could call this extra smoky flavor or something, but even I couldn't lie that hard. Now, the bacon was set aside, time for the beef. I dropped the whole 300 grams of minced beef into the same pan, no added fat, we are already swimming in cheddar oil and leftover bacon grease. Honestly, it smelled incredible, like every carnivore restaurant you wish existed. I seasoned it with just salt. And before anyone says anything, I just want to clarify. I don't use any spices in my diet except for salt. But if you do, go wild. The bacon and cheese were doing enough already, and I didn't want to overpower the taco-ness of the dish. Let it brown, let it get those crispy edges. I was breaking it apart with spatula as we were approaching to the end. At one point, I considered adding another egg yolk, like I usually do for richness. But then I looked at the 5 taco shells, the bacon, the bowl of fat, and realized maybe not this time. Once it was fully cooked, I turned off the heat and let it chill in the pan while I took a well-earned break. Sat down, looked at my thumbnail shells like they were my trophies. Then I remembered I still had to assemble the tacos. The hardest part was still ahead, not screwing up the final shot. Alright, the grand finale. I had 5 cheese shells in front of me, like little golden trophies. 3 of them were for the thumbnail, 1 was a test survivor, and one was just hanging out, not really part of the plan, but too good to throw away, the lone wolf. I started filling them one by one with ground beef, nothing fancy, just a solid scoop into each shell, took my time, tried to make them look full but not overloaded, that sweet spot where they don't collapse the second you pick them up. The plan, if you can call it that, was to stack 4 of them into this one round bowl, facing outward like they knew that they were being photographed. The 5th one off to the side, like it missed the memo. Once the 4 main tacos were filled with beef, I went in with the bacon, sprinkled it on the top, crispy, salty, probably slightly overcooked bacon, but still doing its job. Then I turned to the 5th shell, no bacon for this one. I figured if I was going to mess something up, it might as well be that one that wasn't in the thumbnail lineup. So I grabbed a spoonful of the cream, carefully, because it's thick and unpredictable, and dropped it on top of the beef like I knew what I was doing. And that's the final product. 5 carnivore tacos, 4 of them camera ready, and 1 smothered in cream and ready to fall apart. This recipe was messy, a little chaotic, and way better than it had any right to be. If you're doing carnivore and you miss tacos, try these ones. You don't need any special ingredients, just cheese, beef, bacon, and maybe a reckless attitude towards stove safety. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this ridiculous experiment, subscribe for more questionable cooking and solid meat-based meals. And I'll meet you here next time on Meat Carnivore, where nothing goes perfectly, but everything gets eaten anyway.